views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the hosts and guests, and not necessarily those of the staff and management of WWDB-TV.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Las Vegas Law Talk. I am your host, Alexis Brown. Today is the 22nd of February 2020, and today I have with me Kelso Smith. Welcome.
Hi, good morning.
Thanks for coming on the show today, Kelso. Kelso is one of our peer counselors in Trial by Peers. He went through the summer course, took our bar exam, did our mock trial, and was sworn in. Have you taken any cases, Kelso?
I have not yet, but I've taken the mock trial case.
Yeah, you did the mock trial. Have you sat on any juries?
I have. I've sat on one.
Yeah, how did you enjoy that experience?
I really enjoyed it. I felt like I learned a lot more about cross-examination, just the whole process.
So you were a juror on a not guilty case then?
I was a juror on a guilty case.
On a guilty case. Oh, nice, nice. And how was it rendering a sentence in the Trial by Peers program? Did you feel responsible, or how did it
feel responsible.
Yeah,
but I felt like it wasn't. I felt like it was a good choice.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. So our first segment, we always like to talk about the Law Foundation, what's going on with them. We've got our peer counselor to help out a little bit. And then today we have a special guest, Romeo Perez. He is candidate for Family Court Department Z, and I'm excited to have him here on the show today. So for the Law Foundation, we've got a bunch of stuff going on. I'd like to remind you guys about what we have going on. First things first, on March 5th, that's coming up here very, very soon, we are having a spring mixer, so anybody can attend that. We've got some great people coming. Actually, Nevada Supreme Court Justice Pickering registered for that. The tickets are $40. It'll be at the Capitol Grill, which is over at the Fashion Show. It includes gourmet appetizers, it includes a drink ticket. There's free valet over there, so that way you don't have to worry about parking. And we hope that you will join us. All of the proceeds from that event are benefiting Trial by Peers and helping make sure that we can keep teaching these peer counselors about how to become peer counselors, and then taking on cases from the juvenile justice system, and making sure that we're now also taking referrals as well from the schools. So we hope you'll join us on March 5th at the Capitol Grill for that mixer. The next thing we have going on at Trial by Peers is our Liberty Bell Award and Let Freedom Ring art contest. So the Liberty Bell Awards are awards that we have been being given out since the 80s that honors someone, either a lawyer, a judge, or a lawmaker in town who upholds the rules of civics and promotes good law in the state of Nevada. So we've had some really great people who have received that award over the years. Harry Reid has received that award. Judge on the appeals court has won that award recently. Linda and Stuart Bell have also won that award, and Connie Ackridge was one of our most recent winners as well. So we hope that you can join us. That's on May 2nd, 2020. We're still nailing down the location and some of those details, but if you want to get on the mailing list for that, then you can contact Patrick Montano over at the Clark County Law Foundation, and we'll have John throw up his email in the post-production for you. So we've got a couple of, and then the last thing we've got going on is for these guys, for our Trial by Peers peer counselors. So the Trial by Peers summer course, it comes up on June 9th is when it starts. It's an 8-week class. It's 2 nights a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, where we are teaching our kids, our peer counselors, 12 to 17-year-olds. Anyone who is interested in 12 to 17 can submit their interest and application to become a peer counselor to take the summer course. So what are some of the things you learned that you remember from the summer course?
I learned about how to show evidence.
Right, teach them all about evidence, how to get it in, how to lay foundation,
How
right?
to question witnesses,
Right.
how the whole course, just communication.
So we're teaching them about how to do their opening arguments, do their closing arguments, do witness examinations, make sure that they're able to essentially present a whole not guilty case. So one of the great things about the Trial by Peers program, it makes it unique across the country. Of course, there's a ton of these, youth courts across the country, but one of the really unique things about the Law Foundation's Trial by Peers program is that we allow not guilty cases. So when we take a case from juvenile justice, we allow the defendant participant to plead not guilty. And when a defendant participant pleads not guilty, we put on a whole trial, right?
Right.
So we subpoena the officers, we subpoena a teacher or another witness, another student, or whoever it may be that has evidence and can provide testimony about whatever the charge is. And then our peer counselors, they do all the work. They put together the examination and they make sure that all of the facts come out either for the state or in favor of the defense, right?
Right.
It's really cool, you guys, and it's so impressive as an attorney. Being a senior attorney, when I got my bar license in 2011, it was one of the first things that I made sure that I did is I went and volunteered for the program because I was a peer counselor when I was 13. So I made sure I volunteered, and it's impressive really to watch these kids, especially as they grow through the program. They learn how to really communicate to the public because they're in front of a judge, they're in front of a jury, they're in front of their peers, and they're helping. If they're on the defense side, they're really helping this defendant participant learn a lesson and get a second chance. So so the summer course starts June 9th, and you can submit an interest form if you go to the website. That's www.clarkcountylawfoundation.org. You can go to the website and submit, go to the Trial by Peers tab and submit an interest form if you would be interested in attending the summer course with and learn like this guy did here. So. Next thing we have up, we've got Romeo Perez coming on up. So one of the goals that I have with this program is not just supporting the program, the programs of the Clark County Law Foundation, but there are 136 or maybe 138 judicial candidates on our ballot in Nevada, in Clark County this year. 130, that's so many. I don't even know how I'm going to decide. So one of the things I've been wanting to do is to make sure that we get people on the show who are out there running, so that way we know who we might be voting for. We need to know who we're voting for. I need to know who I'm voting for. I think these guys want to know who they might vote for, right?
Right.
You want to know who you're voting for. So up next, we've got Romeo Perez. He is a local attorney. He's been practicing for over 20 years, all in family law, and he is running for Family Court Department Z. It's a new department, and I'm excited. I have known of Romeo in town. I was a legal assistant and knew of him back then, and have always had him as someone who I knew that I could refer people to for their family law cases, and have never heard a bad thing back about it. So I'm excited really to have him on the show today. Thank you, Kelso, for being on. We'll have you on a little bit later after Romeo, and we'll talk some more about what you maybe learned and how the show went, and then we'll see you then, okay?
Okay.
Perfect. Take a break. Thanks so much.
We could talk a little bit about the Trial by Peers program. It's been about 22 years with the Clark County Law Foundation, and the goal is to provide community service and educational opportunities to our youth. When I was teaching a summer class, preparing for the examination, and one of the parents came up to me and said it was like listening to a civics class, and that's exactly what it's about. It's about teaching good citizenship, and the whole Trial by Peers is exactly what it means. It's a trial by the peers. It's where the youth are defended by their peers, they are prosecuted by their peers, and they are judged by their peers. It's a juvenile diversion program. Youth that get citations come to the program instead of going to the court, to the juvenile court. And what happens, the thing is based on a positive peer, saying that the youth respond more to other peers, telling them it's inappropriate or hold them accountable. So it's based on the youth court and positive peer pressure. So that's the whole goal of the program.
entire life, hands down. And you have to really take it for what it is and really appreciate it, because we're really lucky to have that in our city.
Opportunity to study law and know the handles around the courtroom. You know, I wasn't really good at speaking at first, but thanks to them, they helped me out. Yeah, so, and to the new peer counselors, I want to say, you got to take this seriously, because this is a program you cannot sit back on, lay back, and pretend like it's nothing. This program will help you succeed, and it will make you a better person, okay? Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Las Vegas Law Talk. I am Alexis Brown, and I am your host. And with me, we've got Romeo Perez.
Good morning, Alexis.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well, thanks.
Thank you for coming. It's raining out there today.
is.
Thank you for coming and braving the rain for us and coming to talk about your candidacy.
Well, it rains like 5 days a year in Las Vegas.
We
so
would get the
you
one
gotta-
day.
Right. So enjoy it, right?
Right.
Enjoy it.
So, I mean, first, of course, I mean, you're here to talk about your candidacy, and we will get to that, of course. But
Sure.
I want to, I mean, you've been around in the legal field as long as I can remember. I think you've been practicing in Nevada at least since 2003.
Right.
And I started working in law firms, I think it was about 2001, 2002. So you really were a name that I heard around since the beginning, I feel like, as far as I'm concerned, my legal
Great.
career. So, you know, I want to know how you ended up in, you know, how you ended up a lawyer, how you ended up in Vegas. Let's talk about that. How did you end up a lawyer? It's a long story, I'm sure.
Well, you know what? It seems like I've wanted to be a lawyer since I was a fetus. I was very, very young. I cannot remember.
Relatable. I was like
Right.
8 when I decided.
See, I don't remember a time where I didn't want to be a lawyer.
That's cool.
I was always an advocate. I was always fighting the bullies. I was always taking on the playground people who were getting pushed around. I was that kid.
I love it.
And I watched politics on TV as a 5-year-old. You know, I
You
watched.
grew up in Texas, right?
I did,
Yeah.
right. I grew up in South Texas, down in Edinburgh, which is about 10 miles from the border at the very bottom of South Texas.
Right.
So I had a great upbringing. My parents and my family are all business people. So I grew up learning about being responsible, learning about how to run budgets, learning how to be around a good work ethic. And that has served me so well.
I'm sure you worked in your family's business growing up.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
I did. I did everything from, you know, clean the bathrooms to vacuuming to answering phones. I did all kinds of stuff growing up.
I bet you did.
And
What kind of business were your parents in?
Well, my grandfather on my mom's side had a produce company.
Okay.
So I got to work in his produce company on the summers. Got I think it was $2.35 an hour at the time when I was
wow.
working. So when I got this huge, like $30 check, I thought it was the greatest thing in the world.
I bet.
I went out and I bought the Grease album
Nice.
with my first check. So
I love it.
yeah, that was the greatest thing to me. My grandfather on my dad's side owned a gasoline station.
Okay.
At the time it was a Gulf station. I don't think we have those anymore around here anyway.
I don't think so, yeah, no.
And so I ran around there and did some things during some weekends. And
Made sure the shelves were stocked and the gasoline
Right.
was being
Right.
poured. And
I didn't get to do anything really fun because it was kind of a dangerous area to be really for a kid, but
Okay.
my grandpa just let me get in there and do what I could, and he put me to work.
So you were a businessman, an entrepreneur kind of from
Right.
the get-go.
I was around those people all my life. You know, I grew up with my grandparents working. My father owned a construction company.
Okay.
And when I was a teenager, so I worked with him during the summers.
Nice.
I got to destroy things and kind of make a little more work for him, unfortunately, some days. But
Well, you
yeah,
know.
well, but it was great.
That's really great. I mean, so obviously you have a strong work ethic background,
Absolutely.
and that was instilled in you from generations back, which is fantastic,
Right.
and I think would be a great quality in a judge personally.
But yeah, I think so too, because Judges have so much work to do.
Oh,
I mean, it's not even
so much.
the 8 to 5. It's so many files that they have to take home to prepare for the next day.
Right.
It's not just an easy job. So.
Well, right. I mean, because as a judge, I mean, you're making sure to, I know as a lawyer anyways, and I'm sure as parties in family court as well, I mean, we appreciate when the judges have read our papers.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because we put in effort, parties put in effort to, you know, put in whatever their arguments are. So it's important as an advocate and as a party that a judge has read the briefs.
Right.
Right? So you're gonna have some long days staying up and
And I know that we prepare, you know, these motions are typically anywhere from 15 to 30 pages long.
Right.
And they have the law, and then they have exhibits which have to be read.
Right.
And we put so much of that into it. It's very disappointing sometimes when you walk in and a judge is not as caught up on the nuances anyway that we wanted them to catch in our motion.
Right.
And that's what oral argument is for. But it's for a judge to be completely prepared, and there are some really good judges who are very prepared, catch the nuances, catch what we're trying to do with these cases, and those are the best places to be for our clients.
Yes, absolutely. So we talked about a little bit about your childhood, and your work ethic is definitely going to translate to the bench if you make it there. Sort of how did you, I mean, and you wanted to be a lawyer forever. Where did you
Always.
go to law school? I mean, and you started in Texas as a lawyer, right?
I did. I went to the University of Texas at Austin. I graduated, hook 'em horns.
Hook 'em horns. I have friends out there in Austin, so
Oh, very good.
I do, yeah.
Very good. Well, that'll translate well. So I went to the University of Texas. I graduated from there, and then I went to school at Texas Southern University in Houston.
Okay.
And I graduated from there, and I moved to South Texas, which is where I was from. I was doing very well in South Texas when I got the call in Las Vegas. I had a cousin who was a paralegal here who says, hey, my boss is looking to move on and retire. Would you be interested? And I said, well, of course.
Yeah.
Las Vegas at the time was the center of the universe, right?
Sure.
It was an amazing place to be. So I came out here, took the bar exam, passed it, bought him out, and the rest is history.
And here we are now.
And
that
I
was
moved-
about 17 years ago, right? That you've
It
been
was.
in, yeah.
It was. We finally moved out here. I was going back and forth for a while.
Right.
And then in 2004, we decided to just move out. And when I moved out my entire family. So my mom, my dad, my sister, my
Wow.
mother-in-law,
Wow.
we all came from South Texas.
You brought the
And
whole crew.
The whole crew came in.
You're like, I'm not leaving without you. I told you I would take you.
Right.
I know I'm taking you.
So when I say I'm a family man, I'm definitely a family
You
man,
mean
and that
it.
proves it.
Absolutely. So have you always worked, I mean, I know in Nevada you definitely have always worked in the family law realm. Did you also do that in Texas?
I did primarily family law.
Yeah.
It's, you know, a lot of my career has been focused on family law because I really feel strongly about family and family law. Generally, I've done the personal injury cases. I've had criminal cases. I do some even traffic tickets
Sure.
and so I've
You're
been
solo,
able to do.
so you know, you do
Right,
a
I
little bit
do-
of a lot.
Right.
I get it.
But I've generally focused on the family law cases because that's what I enjoy. I think it's so important when you're dealing with families, and that's really the most personal of law. Because you're dealing with kids, you're dealing with finances, you're dealing with their hearts, and I do well with those cases.
So I have a solo practice myself, and I don't do family law because it is so personal and tough. How do you manage that? And like, I mean, you know, because you're really, I mean, of the groups of law, you know, family law is one where you're dealing with people at some of the hardest moments of their lives because, you know, no one goes into a marriage thinking it's going to end, you know what I mean? No
Right.
one, it's not how it usually works, you know what I mean? You're not walking into a marriage thinking it's going to end, and when it does end, it's so emotional and so difficult, and there's so many things that you have to kind of unpack, and so much emotion tied to even just the financial decisions. You know, any sound decision it's all emotional. How do you help your clients through that?
Well, you know, I've been doing this for 21 years, so I've seen a lot of different fact patterns, and some of it is some families come in and they have businesses that need to be unloaded, and that's just a financial. Some of it, many of them have children, and minor children, and sometimes they're young, sometimes they're older, sometimes they can articulate what they want, sometimes they can't, and you just have to deal with everybody individually. Everybody wants to feel like they're your only client. Everybody wants to be treated with respect. Everybody wants to know that you're hearing me.
Right.
And that is what I bring to the bench. I've represented clients for 21 years, which means I've had them cry on my shoulders. I've had them cry in my office. I've had the hugs. I've been yelled at. you know, when things don't go so well.
Right.
So I've been on this side of the table. And for 21 years, I've dealt with people in their problems, and I've had to unpack figure out what is owed to them in a business, had to figure out what the value of a business is. Sometimes we have money to do that, sometimes we don't.
Right.
And sometimes we just have to figure out what the values are. What is the value of a house? What is the value of retirement? What are where are the children going to spend Easter and Christmas and Thanksgiving? How is it important? Right. Some people are religious, some people aren't.
Sure.
So there are things there's so many things that different families will bring to the office. It's in how you deal with those people and how you make them feel like they're going to get closure at the end of this case.
Right.
Whether it's a divorce or custody or anything else. They have to be able to move on when we're gone. The judge is gone and you're no longer going to the courthouse. That's what's important. And then from the bench, a judge needs to give those people the opportunity to tell their story. That's some of what we do, as you know.
Yes.
We tell our client's story, and the clients want to know, hey, my lawyer fought for me. My lawyer told my story. My lawyer told the judge what a rat that guy is,
Right.
and how he's no good and all these other things. And I'll tell you, 100% of the time, judge doesn't care. Judge is going to just make a decision based on the law and the facts.
Right.
What a rat guy your ex-husband is, it doesn't really matter.
Right.
But the client, it matters to the client. It matters to the client that you've told them that somebody else but her knows what a rat he is.
Right.
And for a judge to sit and listen and give you that time is what I bring, because I know how important telling that story and giving you closure is.
Sure, and I like that you mentioned that. I mean, I think that as an attorney, as an advocate, it is one of my biggest requirements for a judge. I feel like is that ability to listen. You know, whether or not a judge makes the best decision, I think, or a decision that favors my client, or all the way, or partially, or whatever. I really care that they have listened to me. You mean that they have given me the chance to argue whatever the points I need to argue are, not really cut me off in the middle of it,
Right.
you know what I mean? And just giving me that chance, because it is important to the clients. And I think also it's important to me as an advocate. I mean, I was licensed in 2011 here in Nevada. I'm working on 9 years this year. So I'm not a new lawyer, but I'm still fairly new, as a practicing lawyer. And so, having a judge hear you is huge, even as an advocate, as a younger advocate. So I appreciate hearing you say that you're going to bring to the bench the ability to listen and try and take in both sides, even though you're still going to digest it and really base it on the actual law and the facts of the case, right?
Right.
Because obviously as a judge, that really is your ultimate, the law is your guide.
Right.
Right? And the facts you have to then apply to that law.
Exactly.
Right. I mean, and the great thing is, you've been in town now. Again, you've been in Nevada for 17 years, so you know the laws in Nevada.
I do.
All of the family court laws, you know what they are.
I do, and I'm well aware. We keep up with our CLEs every year, and we do the family law
Do you teach
conference.
CLEs?
I don't teach.
Oh, okay.
But I listen very well.
No, I'm sure you probably focus more your CLEs on specific family law practice.
Absolutely, mostly family law. Some mental health aspects of family law
that we're required to do. Well, that's so obviously lawyers in Nevada, we have to have, what are we, 13 credits now? 12 credits? I think it's 13 credits with the mental health credit. So it sounds like Romeo's been making sure his education is in the law where he wants to go and be a judge in. That's fantastic. All right, we're going to go ahead and take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk more about why Romeo is running for family court judge in Department Z, why he picked that, and what other things he's going to bring to the bench. Talk to you soon. Hey everyone, welcome back to Las Vegas Law Talk. I'm still here with Romeo Perez, who is a candidate for family court judge in Department Z in Clark County, Nevada. So we talked a little bit, Romeo, kind of about how you came up, your background, your childhood, and some things that you are going to bring to the bench. I want to keep talking about those things. So, I mean, what made you decide now to run for judge? Like, why is now the time for you?
Well, I've owned my own practice for 21 years, and I think that's important to know because I have hired, I've managed, I've paid bills, I've been a business owner.
It's hard out there being
21
a
years.
solo.
It is. And as you know, we had, the 2008, we had that rough time
Yeah, you made it
in
through all of
Nevada.
that, yeah.
And we survived because we do good work for people, and it's honest. I've decided that now we're running in Department Z. Z because it's a cool letter.
Yes.
Z because it's Perez.
Yes.
I think that's important.
I love
So Z, it's at the very bottom of the list, and it's a little nervous because voters have to get all the way to the bottom of the list.
We have all of the candidates, so we've got, 56, 58 departments, just judicial departments. That doesn't even count the non-judicial races, of course, that we have. We've got 58 judicial departments in Clark County on the ballot.
Right.
And poor Romeo, he's all the way, family court is after district court, and Z is all the way at the bottom of that. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't get all the way down to the bottom, because it's our voice that's being heard.
Absolutely, and family court is the most personal of courts.
Yes.
I don't know if people truly appreciate how important it is, because family court is not just divorce, child custody, and child support.
That's a lot of it.
It's guardianship.
Yeah.
It is grandparents' rights.
Right.
It's juvenile justice.
Right.
It's the abuse and neglect or the dependency cases where CPS gets involved. There are a number of issues that family court has to deal with, and they're all personal. They deal with your money, they deal with your kids, they deal with your mental health. So those judges need to be picked so particularly. You need to look at the background that people who are going to be judging you and making decisions about your life and your kids' life and your money.
Yeah.
Those judges are very, very important.
Hugely important. I mean, and so Department Z, other than being Perez, it's a new department, right?
It is a new department. There's never been a judge in there. The legislature created 6 new departments, and that's the last one.
One of them. My goodness. So we are growing so much in Clark County that now we've got another 6 family court departments
Right.
than what we had before. And Romeo's running for the Department Z, the last one of those. Now you've got, of course, multiple people running. What do you think sets you apart?
Well, I'll tell you, I have 21 years of experience. I believe that's the most experience of anybody in the race. I have been a business owner. I have represented people in all areas of family law. I'm not just a divorce lawyer. I'm not just a custody or abuse and neglect lawyer, but I've also done the personal injury cases. I've also done the DUIs, the domestic violence. I've done traffic tickets. I've done a number of different areas of law, because as my practice grew and as my families had needs, I would help them in those needs. And if I couldn't, I would refer them out to somewhere else, because I think it's important to be a reference to my clients and to people, to let them know, hey, I can't handle this, but Alexis can.
I do the same thing in my own practice. Yeah, it's real important to me.
And it's just smart. It's just smart to know, hey, this is out of my area of expertise. You're welcome to move on.
Sure.
But I bring that area because I have been dealing with all areas of problems that families have. And I think that when people come to the judge and say, hey, I've been involved in a DUI, or he's had a domestic violence, or there's these cases going on, maybe there's a personal injury settlement that we have to deal with as to whether that's separate or personal property or marital property. Those things all have to be dealt with. And if you've got a judge who's never dealt with those issues on a practical side, I think it puts them at a disadvantage when having to make decisions about those issues.
Sure. I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it makes sense if you haven't really practiced extensively or at all potentially in the area of,
Right.
The child custody and the divorce and the guardianships and all of those areas.
Sure.
I mean, when you're sitting on the bench, you're going to have a huge learning curve. And I imagine it's a huge learning curve to go from advocate to judge anyways, you know what I mean? But then if you're having to throw on, now let's also learn all the law too.
Right.
That's
right.
going to be
one
tough,
thing,
right?
It's one thing to learn about how to be a judge. It's another thing to have to learn that whole area of law.
Right.
and then learn how to be a judge.
Right. And they send you to judicial college for that,
They
don't
do.
they?
There's an
it's, you know,
actual college.
there's a college that they will teach you some
Right.
of the nuances of being a judge. But yeah, I definitely think having that background in the law is hugely important. So, are you having a kickoff? How can we support you? I mean, you know, all of that. Tell us all about how we can support you.
So we're having a kickoff on February 27th at Ellis Island. It'll be at the Front Yard. It's their new restaurant,
nice.
which is beautiful. They've got a great sports bar area. We'll be having it on the second floor. Of course, you can always go to my website at www.romeo4judge.com. Please come by, and if you have any questions, I'm also on Facebook. It's Romeo for Judge on Facebook. You can send me questions. My phone number's on there. Please give me a call. Yeah. I can answer any questions. And as you know, Alexis, every person has 10 people that they can tell. And with my race, it's so important. We have a primary June 9th.
Yes.
And it's so important for every person to tell their 10 people, hey, I've met this guy. Hey, I like this person. This is why. Or go find out if you like him. Yeah. And that way we get the word out. I tell people, get a good night's rest, get a good breakfast before you go vote on June 9th, because you will need the stamina to get down to Z. So I would truly appreciate.
We are going to need the stamina
Right.
to get down to Department Z.
Sure.
But it is so worth it. Like you said, I mean, it is incumbent upon all of our residents to make sure that we're out voting. I don't care who you vote for. I don't think even Romeo cares in the end who you vote for, as long as you're voting, because if we're not exercising that right, then we're not doing it right. I'm excited. So you can come out, you can meet Romeo yourself,
Right.
you can come to his kickoff. Those kickoff parties, by the way, are pretty fun most of the time.
They're pretty fun.
They're pretty fun. I've been to a few over the years. You know, there's always food, which is always nice. And there's usually more candidates there as well. It's not just going to be
Right.
Romeo there. There's going to be other lawyers. There's going to be more judicial candidates, people who are, you know, out in the community doing these things. And so you can shake hands with them. You can talk to them. You can ask Romeo your questions about why, you know, why we should choose him. Why should we get all the way down to the bottom of that ballot and make sure that we're selecting for Department Z, right? Why should we do that? So it's exciting. I mean, I'm excited for you to be able to, you know, take on this new venture. If you get on the bench, it's exciting.
Absolutely. Looking
It's so,
forward to it.
It's so nice to see, you know, people that I've known for a long time kind of making these leaps. Maybe someday I'll do it myself. I don't know.
It could be out there. It could be in your future.
So if you do get on the bench, let's talk about that. If you do get on the bench, we talked a little about you're going to make sure that you're listening to the advocates and the parties, number
Always.
one. What is sort of maybe some other top goals you have if you make it onto the bench?
Well, you know, people ask me, are you ready for the long hours? I said, well, I have long hours as a lawyer. You
And a
know
business
that
owner.
we don't get to go home at 5 o'clock and
Yeah.
turn everything off. That's something, you know, we take our files home. We work from home, many of us. I send emails out all day long,
At
no
night.
matter where I am, at night, in the morning.
Weekends.
Sure. So I mean, we're constantly working. So the work is not a question. We're ready to do the work as a judge, and I'm ready to be prepared as a judge. I look forward to it. I have so many people who are excited about my campaign. I'm very blessed in that way. As a judge, I think it's very important to help people with closure, as I've mentioned before, listening to them on the bench and giving them a timely decision. You know, so many lawyers in family law and lawyers in general do an hourly billing.
Right.
So every time you go to court, you're getting billed. Every time you're having to deal with issues, you are getting billed. I think it's super important for a judge to be able to give you a timely decision, a good decision in a short amount of time to get your matter resolved. If that saves you on attorney's fees, it saves you on your own mental health and having to deal with this case going on and on and on, it helps to resolve and helps you have closure. So for a judge to give you a timely decision, to make decisions from the bench if possible, and it's not always possible, but to give you the decisions from the bench, it's helpful that they're ready, that they've prepared and read all the pleadings and then make those decisions. to give people guides as to what we're going to do in the future, and then to close those cases.
Yeah.
Because closing those cases is what you're there for.
Right.
You're there to make those decisions when those families can't make those decisions. And in family court, it's always better for the family to make their own decision. Mom and dad know better for their kids than I do. But when they can't, I will.
That's important. I mean, yeah, so if you are in the family court and, you know, you're putting your best foot forward, and so, you know, is maybe your partner, and it's a difficult decision that you just can't agree on, you're going to have someone who's going to really listen to you, have read your briefs, and make what is hopefully the most reasoned decision that he possibly can.
Exactly.
Sound accurate?
Absolutely. And you know, so a lot of what we do also is the abuse and neglect area.
Right.
You know, where we're dealing with CPS cases, children who get removed. Those cases, you definitely want a quick result. You definitely need to have people either deciding, are we going to have the kids back in the home? Is it going to be a safe and protected place for those children? We do that in the abuse and neglect cases.
Right.
And
Are you going to make sure that all of your, I mean, I know CASA advocates are a big thing with those kinds of cases. I mean, just, and making sure that those kids are represented. I'm sure that that's something you'll be doing if you get on the bench as well.
There are CAP attorneys,
CAP attorneys as
and
well.
CASAs are also a help to the children. That's so important because children are parties to these cases. They get a say in what's going on. And the final issue in these cases are permanency for the kids.
Right.
Can we permanently put them back in the home? Can they be safe where they are, or do they need to be somewhere else? The judge needs to be open to listening to all sides and making a determination. And we don't have a crystal ball. There's no way to determine what's going to happen. We just have to make the best decision that we can based on the information that we have.
Right, and all that comes back to that listening aspect. You're making sure that you've listened to all of the parties, and you know, if they have an advocate, that you're listening to their advocate as well, and making sure that you've heard as much as you can to make the best decision you can for the family, the child, whoever is really most impacted by the decisions, right?
Right, exactly.
Well, I think if you do make it on the bench, you're going to be a great judge either
Thank you.
way. And even if people don't make it all the way down to the bottom, I hope you run again and again and again, because I would love to see you on the bench someday, even again.
thank
I
you,
mean,
Alexis.
I wish you all of the best. Remind us again of your website.
I'm at www.romeo4judge.com.
And that kickoff is on February 27th, right?
February 27th at the front yard at Ellis Island on Koval and Flamingo.
I'm going to try and make it. I
Okay.
really hope that I can, because
I hope we see you there.
it'll be a fun time. Thanks again for coming on, Romeo. It's been
Thank you.
such a pleasure, and it's been great.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And
I wish you the
enjoy.
best of all of luck in your running for Department Z in Clark County Family Court, Clark County District Court Family Court. We'll take a break and we'll be back with Kelso again. Thanks, guys. Hey everyone, welcome back again to Las Vegas Law Talk. This is our last segment for today. Welcome back, Kelso. So you sat and watched Romeo.
I did.
How was that?
It was good. I learned a lot about him. I learned that he does mainly family court, but also did a lot of different types of law. I learned that he's running in the new department, Department Z, and he seems like a good candidate. He's running as a judge.
Yeah. So if you think about yourself and the Trial by Peers program, what's important to you in a judge? Like, what do you want that judge up there to be like?
I want that judge to get the connection of the defendant and just understand the whole perspective of everybody's perspective.
So, kind of like Romeo was talking about, really making sure that the judge listens to everybody.
Right.
Making sure that they're listening to all the parties, hearing all the sides, and then making a decision.
Yes.
Right? I like it. So, do you think you'd make it all the way down on the ballot? Think you could do it? You got the stamina?
I do.
You're not voting this year. How many more years till you get to vote?
5, I believe.
5 more years, and then he's going to be going all the way down that ballot for maybe Romeo Perez someday.
Maybe.
All right, actually, I wanted to bring up a topic in our last segment today that has given me a little bit of pause. So I keep seeing this article go around that the people are being arrested for medical debts. And there's some truth to that. But I just wanted to clear the air because it's been passed around a little bit like, either it's new or it's not legal, when in reality it is. But there's really specific scenarios that you can actually get to the point of being arrested in a civil court, okay? So the thing is even judges, like if Romeo Perez gets on the bench, eventually they can get mad enough at you if you don't do enough things that they have ordered you to do, that they can issue a warrant for your arrest. But you really have to do a lot of different things to get to that point. No judge wants to throw you in jail for a medical debt. No judge wants to throw you in jail because you disobeyed an order. They don't really want to do that to you. So I've had so many people worry that they're going to get thrown in jail in a civil case, and I just have to clear the air. It's not likely to happen unless you don't do what the judge tells you to do. So if a judge tells you to show up in court, show up in court. If a judge tells you to answer a question, answer a question. That's all you have to do. That's it. Otherwise, if you don't do what the judge tells you to do, they can issue a civil contempt order. Civil contempt. Essentially, it's a warrant for your arrest. They'll put you in jail until you comply with the order, because that's all they want you to do, is just listen to their orders. So I just wanted to clear the air on that because it's really been bothering me. There's no point, okay? There's no point for people to be worried about that kind of thing unless you are disobeying the court's orders, okay? Wow, it's been an interesting week in politics in Las Vegas. We've had the Democratic debate. We've got our caucus today. We've got the Republican rally was here yesterday. And actually, I got to really see a really neat thing. I have never seen it in my life, but I got to see the presidential motorcade yesterday. It was pretty cool. So it was, it's the thing of beauty, actually, to watch, because as I saw it, it was a coordination of so many different people to get to that point. I mean, obviously, this is the president of the free world, the leader of our country, and it's state, it's federal, it's local governments all working together. All of those police and agencies were all together, and in a beautiful way, just kind of took him down the Las Vegas Strip. It was really neat. I don't know if I'll ever see that again, but I'm really glad that I was down on the Strip having tacos El Pastor and got stuck in the motorcade traffic. I know most people were pretty angry about it the last few days. There was a lot of comments on Facebook about how the traffic was just horrible because of all the streets being blocked because Trump and all the other candidates are in town. But I'm honestly glad that Nevada is such a hot spot for all of this, because we're important. Nevada is an important state. We're a swing state. We kind of flop. We're a little bit purple. We're a little red. We're a little blue. So it's really important that all these people come to Nevada and talk about their candidacies, right?
Right.
And it was really neat to have Romeo Perez, a candidate for family court, on our show. I hope to have more candidates. If you might be interested in coming on the show to talk about your candidacy, you can give me a call at 702-848-8806. Make sure you go to our website, lawtalk.vegas. You can see past episodes there and some past clips of myself on different shows. And then you can also go to our Facebook, facebook.com/Las Vegas Law Talk. We hope to see you around, and we'll see you the second Tuesday of March. That's when our next recording is. We'll see you guys then. Thanks so much for being on today, Kelso.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. We'll see you next time.